how hard it is to invest or how hard it is to get started investing. And one of the things we hear often is it's really hard for young people. Our friend Millennial Mike says it often. All those boomers messed everything up for everybody. And so I quote statistics like these. There are more 25-year-old Gen Zs who own homes than there were 25-year-old millennials or 25-year-old Gen Xs. So while it is difficult to buy, it isn't any harder than it's always been, and it's never going to be easy. And so the longer you wait, unless you have a valid reason, and waiting for the crash is not a valid reason, it's going to cost you if you wait. So today I have Gianni on here, and I want you to think about this. Look at this picture. One of us is named Gianni, one of us is named Dion. If you just saw us, who would you think is who? But Gianni, I want to take you through what it took to get your portfolio. As an example, at what age did you get your first property?
Yeah, so again, as Dion mentioned, my name is Gianni, and I got my first property at the age of 23. I was actually 22, but it was right before my 23rd birthday.
So when you were 23, you were buying a rental. What were your friends at 23 doing?
Partying, clubbing, traveling, doing more stuff than I was doing. So,
And most, I would say almost every, but maybe a few that I've met through YouTube University, people who are 23 years old say they can't buy a house. It's absolutely impossible. So you bought one at 23. We're going to go through how you got that one. What does your portfolio look like now, and how old are you?
so now I'm 26, and I got three properties now, working on number four. I got two, 3 units, and I have a single family.
So you're coming up on the fourth property currently at 7 rentals or 7 units. You probably live in one. Are you house hacking?
Correct. Yep, I am. I am house hacking.
Okay. So for everybody that's saying it's impossible to start in real estate now, and you only benefited because you bought back when the dinosaurs were walking the earth, when houses were affordable. You started 3 years ago,
Mhm.
right after a pandemic, an eviction moratorium. Everybody's saying the world's going to end. What got you into, let me get this first property and tell us about that deal. What was it like?
The first property, I just know I wanted to invest. I come from a different background, and so just wanted to do something different. The first property, I went through all the emotions, the highs, the lows. The first property that I purchased, I purchased it from a couple going through a divorce, and so it took about 6 months to actually get the property. There was a lot of back and forth between the couple. There was my accounts and making it through underwriting and different things like that. So it was a journey for sure, but learned a lot from the first property. Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about a property, I would want to say, how did you find it? So in this
Mhm.
case, how did you hear about the divorce?
So I heard about the divorce through the couple. As I was purchasing the property, I was wondering why things were taking so long and certain decisions couldn't be made by one person. And then I found out through, I believe it might have been my realtor or lenders or someone that they were going through a divorce, which is why things were tricky. So
Okay, so you found out about the divorce during the purchase. How did you find the original listing of the property?
the listing, my realtor had actually sold it to the person, and then a person came right back to her to sell it for the divorce.
Okay. And so at 23,
Mhm.
why did you have a realtor?
I needed some guidance. I didn't know much. I just know I wanted to invest, and I reached out to a bunch of different realtors. Nobody really piqued my interest, and then I met this one lady, fierce lady. She understood me. She doesn't come from much either, and we've been family ever since.
I love it. So finding the agents is a step most people don't even take, right? So good job on that. So you have the agent. How did you find your lender?
She recommended the lender, and we went through a couple different lenders as well, just to kind of figure out who was the best fit. And yeah, my first property, the lender I got through her.
Okay, good. So a recommendation from the agent. So
Correct.
it's not like you had to go out and read 1,000 books
Right.
and educate yourself to find a lender. You found an agent who knew a lender. All right, so you have your searches set up. You find out about this. You find out about the divorce. It takes about 6 months to do this. Let's go over the funding. How did you fund that first deal?
Just saving. Just saving over a couple years. Just knew I wanted to again invest, and a lot of sacrificing. Not going out, not buying nice things, nice cars, nice shoes. To a certain extent. So yeah,
Okay, and what kind of loan did you use?
FHA.
FHA.
Yeah.
So what percentage did you put down?
I think after everything, so FHA is 3.5%, but I think after closing costs, it came out closer to about 5.5, 6%.
Okay, right. So you didn't just do the 3.5% down. You did a little more.
Yeah.
I've had some friends that did that because of their debt to income ratio. The lender said, well, you got to put a little bit more down on this property. What type of property was that? And the most important question, because I get a lot of people who are going to say, well, of course he could buy it because he lives in the absolute middle of nowhere where the property was, $5 and three tacos.
Yeah.
Where is this property located?
So I am in Chicago, Illinois. And so it's in the Austin area, which is about 20 minutes away from Chicago downtown. And so, the prices are definitely, they're definitely not cheap here.
Right, not cheap. And that's one of the benefits to buying an owner-occupied property where you can use conventional or FHA or a VA loan to get in there without having to come up with a couple $100,000. How much was that first down payment?
I think after everything, I know it was under 30 grand. I want to say maybe 25 to 28 grand total.
And so there are a lot of people out there that are into real estate, educating themselves or saving their down payment and are thinking, wow, it'd be great to get into this for less than $30,000. Then there's other people out there, I know a lot of them, who are thinking they will never in their life have $30,000 in the bank, let alone put it into a property to take all that risk. So
Yeah,
that was a huge step. What kind of property? Single family house, multifamily?
it's a legal three.
Okay, so it's a legal triplex, and
Yep,
so you purchased it. Did you moved into one of the units?
correct. I did.
Okay, how did the cash flow on that look while you were living there?
So while I was living there, it still cash flowed. Just to put that out there, I got a 2.2% interest rate. And so even with me living there, essentially the cash flow and the capex kind of covered itself. There was only maybe once or twice I had to come out of pocket, and it was only a few $100, but it was kind of like a break-even situation living there.
How much were you paying for housing before moving into the triplex?
I was paying like 2,800 a month for rent.
So 2,800 a month down to zero
Yeah,
at 23 years old. That's a huge impact on your future.
yeah.
Not an easy move to make. A lot of people at every age are thinking, well, I want a house, I want my own yard, I don't want to have neighbors, and maybe I don't even want to be a landlord, but we'll get into what your end goal is here soon.
Mhm.
You acquire the first one, you're house hacking. What did the next purchase look like?
So the next purchase, I um, don't know how I got kind of tripped up into this, but I kind of got just listening to a bunch of other people. I didn't think I was going to be able to buy another building after that, but I know I still wanted to invest. And so what I did was I went out and purchased a single family home. Um, and then unfortunately, after I bought the single family, that's when I learned that that wasn't necessarily the case.
Nice. So now you have a single family home. How
Mhm.
did you find it?
Same realtor.
Same realtor. So listed on the MLS.
Yep, listed on the MLS. And the lender this time, I actually kind of took some time and, looked into, I think I had talked to 5, 10 different lenders at that point.
Just letting everybody know that's watching it in current land that we'll take questions during this live stream if anybody has any. If you're watching it in future land, we'll tell you how you can reach out to Gianni at the end of the video. So you got the second one, you're saving just under $3,000 a month in your housing. What was
Mhm.
the time gap between the first property, that house hack, and that first investment property?
Just a little over a year.
Okay, so then was this single family a house hack or was it a purchase as an investment? Did you
Um,
get into it or was it a
yeah,
rental?
so yeah, so I moved into it, and it was kind of like an investment. I was kind of still trying to figure things out when I moved into it, but
Okay.
I did move into it.
And when you moved in, you then got to rent out the third unit of the triplex.
Correct.
But how much was that rent?
So the unit that I moved out of, I rented that out for 1,400 a month.
And how much is the mortgage on the single family house?
20. The mortgage on a single family is like a little under 2,100 a month.
Okay. So now you have a housing costs, an increase of about $700 a month to go from the triplex to the single family.
Correct.
Okay. But now you're out of the triplex. That is a
Mhm.
fully rented unit. Your homeowner's insurance probably went down a little. If you didn't know, you should make sure you call your insurance company and say, I no longer live there. I don't want to insure my personal property. So your insurance can drop there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. These are great moves. I totally agree with Michelle that she just said in the comments that that was a great move. So very impressive.
Yeah.
Then you have the third property. So you went 1 year to buy the single family house, and then how long to get that second triplex?
The second triplex took, I want to say, about another year and a half.
Okay. And was this purchased with the intent to live in it or as a rental?
The purchase with the intent to live in it.
Okay, very smart. Takes that down payment from 100 grand
Mhm.
down to a manageable number. How much was the down payment to move into that second triplex?
So the second triplex, I did purchase it at a higher price point, and so I did have to come out of pocket a little bit more. Um, the down payment for that one was about, I think I came out of pocket a little under 70 grand because of the purchase price.
Okay, and what does the cash flow on that look like now? Versus, payment versus what rent's coming in on the other two units.
So the cash flow now, it's the cash flow, it brings in about, I want to say 4,500 a month. And this is with me living in one unit, and the mortgage is right under 6,000 a month.
Okay. And when you move out of your unit, how much do you think where you're living at now will rent for?
Conservatively, I would say 1,900.
Okay. And so the mortgage is six, you're 44, so it'll be cash flow positive. I'm not sure what the yield would be based on your down payment. I'd like to have to whiteboard spreadsheet that out here. What's the next step?
So I do know this one is more of a break-even purchase, but again, I'd rather, instead of trying to time the market, just buy real estate and, just let us do its thing. And so, just being conservative, even if I can refinance at a 5%, 6% interest rate. Because this one I got for 7.25, my most recent purchase. So, just gonna hold it throughout time and hopefully I can refinance. And the goal next is just to keep purchasing legal threes or fours, or if I can find a legal two with a basement or something, which is big in Chicago. That's the plan.
What size portfolio are you shooting for? What's your kind of end goal?
Um, I'm still working on that. I do watch a lot of your channel, and a lot of I watch Michael Zuber and Lumber and Grant Cardone, and so still trying to figure out. But I do know my goal is to get to 10 properties by the time I'm 30, and then kind of reevaluate there.
So my friend Curtis says, in order to buy these, you must be making a really good income.
Mhm.
About how much do you make a year? Like profit
Uh,
after, because you run a business, right? You don't
right.
have a W-2 employee.
So me and my buddy, that's kind of one of the interesting things. When my buddy first purchased the business, and it was just me and him. I was 1099, and then I told him that I did want to do real estate, and he told me it would be easier if I was just W-2, and so I actually am considered a W-2.
Okay.
Uh,
And what does your take home look like?
the take home with, um, is it okay if I don't share that?
Yeah, that's fine. So is it, yeah. Okay. We'll leave that gray area.
Yeah. I,
Well, there is a question from Troy that I think you can cover. Uh, do you self-manage or have a property manager?
I self-manage. I self-manage and I use Rent Ready. And that's kind of how I manage things myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a list of handymen or do you use the Thumbtack app? How do you handle the repairs?
I have used the Thumbtack app still to this day, but just getting out my comfort zone and networking, meeting people, going to real estate meetups. I have 5, 6 contractors now. I have 2, 3 handyman on call now that can, make repairs and do things that I trust if I'm there or not. So it's just a work in progress and meeting people.
Yeah, and it does seem a lot easier once you have a couple of those people that you can reach out to.
So
Is there anything that you want to share with somebody who's thinking about getting started? Because you've only been doing this for 3 years. What you've
yeah,
done is very impressive. And I think most of us, I would say almost all of us, say the same sentence. I wish I started sooner.
yeah,
But starting at 23, being where you are by 26, having a goal by 30, I'm curious to see what is going to look like when you're in your 40s. I
yeah,
think you will have the kind of life people don't think is even possible anymore. And we'll have a list of excuses and reasons why they can't do it, just like the list existed in what, 2021 when you were
yeah.
starting?
Yeah, I just tell people to get started. It's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows. I've fallen flat on my face. There's been nights, I've called my realtor and vented to her, told her I'm selling everything. It's definitely been a journey, but I'm not giving up. I'm just gonna keep going. And I tell people the same thing, like just, don't give up on yourself. You don't necessarily have to be a high income earner. I help people kind of on the side, not for pay or anything, just friends and stuff. Show them how to save, and just a couple rental properties, could change your life. The couple that I have changed my life, and so just get started. That's I say get started.
I think that's great. And I have a question. I think Troy kind of altered it for me a little. You mentioned
Mhm.
I called my agent. I'm done. I'm going to sell everything. So I was going to ask, what if you list, you don't have to be too specific, but what were the things that led up to you going, pardon my language, F this, I'm out of here. And Troy says, what's the most challenging decision you've had to make this far in your real estate investing career? So I would kind of put those together. What's been the most challenging and what made you almost quit?
I had a year where I just had a lot of unexpected maintenance come up. We had some crazy weather that happened in Chicago where one of my basement units flooded. And there was like a certain type of insurance you needed that I didn't have for floods. So I had to come out of pocket for that. And then I realized that I had a brand new roof on one of my properties, but apparently there were a couple under roofs under there that weren't good that I didn't know anything about. And so we had to tear off a brand new roof to take off those roofs to then put on a brand new roof. And so I just got hit with over $50,000 worth of stuff and within a year. And it was just that kind of led me to that point. But again, she's fierce and she, guided me, helped me out there. And, fortunately, I was able to keep the ball rolling there.
And now you have the experience to know
Yes.
these are the things to check for, more things to check for, have the home inspection done, check for flood insurance. Uh,
Mhm.
those first few years, that is when we tend to make our biggest mistakes like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much almost all of us make something. And then once you hear it, you think, well, I won't make that mistake. Well,
Yeah.
there's 50 others. Pick and choose which ones you're going to get next. So you're watching all the content, you
Mhm.
know kind of what you want to do.
Mhm.
Is there an age you would like to retire?
Um, I don't necessarily think there's an age I want to retire, but I do. My goal is to kind of, when I think too far out, it kind of overwhelms me. So I try to just take it in like 5 year increments. And so, when I get to 30 and I have, my goal is to get to 10 properties, I can see what the cash flow is like then and kind of reevaluate, do I want to buy more? Do I want to pay some down? Do I want to just, focus on the portfolio that I have, different things like that. But um, I don't necessarily think the goal is to. I come from nothing. I feel like the sky's the limit. So, and I do like nice things. I'm a car guy, and stuff like that. So I want to kind of set myself up. Um, yeah.
So I like that. Michael Zuber talks often about just get to four rentals. Once you get to four, you'll be able to kind of choose if you want to add more or if you want to get out of it. And so if your goal is 10 and your goal is 30, the really cool thing is a lot of people think, well, 10 rentals doesn't sound bad. Like we look for a certain return on investment. You want to have cash flow. But when you get to 30, let's say you hit your 10 rentals, you're not just going to have 10 rentals. You're going to have 10 rentals, but one of them you've had for 7 years,
Mhm.
one you've had for 6 years,
Mhm.
one for four and a half, right? And so over that period of time, you've had possible rent increases. Even Section 8 in certain areas is going up, so that's going to drive up rents. You have possible refinances if rates ever did come back down anywhere near where they were to increase your cash flow. You have every year you can shop around for new insurance quotes to see if there's a better or more cost effective way. And some of the things you can do is raise your deductible because Troy asks, how were you able to finance those large projects? Because it does sound like you were hit by some big bills and you wanted to quit. Was that money that did you have to touch any of your equity or did you just make money from your job and use that to pay for those, or how did that work?
Yeah, so just making money from the job. I've always been a saver. I, started when I was 15, 16 in high school, I was working two, three jobs. And so, I mean, I've been saving essentially since I was probably about 15 years old. And so, yeah, all the money essentially came from my savings.
Well, I want to say thanks for coming on here, sharing your story. I know it's not easy. You seem a lot like me, a little maybe introverted, and
Yeah.
I was not a social media or a YouTube person until a few years ago. So thanks a lot for coming on here and getting out of your comfort zone. If somebody wants to reach out with questions, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So, to answer your question, I did just get back on social media. And so I am on Facebook. You find me as Gianni, last name Newell, or you can find me on Instagram. It's underscore Gianni, which is just I believe it's like three A's and then N-N-I. Um, and then also too, I did want to answer that one question that Troy asked. I think the most challenging decision that I've had to make is realizing that it's better to keep a unit empty than to just put anybody in your unit. I think that's something you just think about the money or just getting the unit filled. There's been times where I let the unit sit empty for a month longer, a couple weeks longer, just to find a better tenant. Just because now I know better.
That is a brilliant point. One of the things I've got some friends, Josh and Mary, who we met through YouTube. They actually moved from California to Washington. They used to be REI stoners. Now they're Martin Properties on YouTube. They got some great videos. But they bought a duplex and they were house hacking one side and rehabbing the other. And they finished it and they were ready to rent it out. And I was really happy because that first month that they could have rented it, they didn't have any good qualified applicants. They had applicants, there was a ton of demand, but they didn't
Mhm.
meet their criteria. They held out till the next month. And so many of us, when we're starting out, we're just terrified of having to pay a month's worth of the mortgage. So we put somebody in who ends up costing us $10,000 in an eviction and repairs instead of hunting for that person that meets the criteria that you set that makes it most likely for you to find a good tenant.
Yep, I agree. And I mean, it worked out perfectly. And since my first, situation that I had with eviction, I haven't had any since. Things have been running, I don't want to say smoothly, but they're running better and just be implementing systems, preventative maintenance. That's a big one too, preventative maintenance. There's a lot of things that you can do that avoids, large ticket items or things just randomly happen. And so that's something I've been focusing on too. And it's between rent ready and just creating my own little like schedule, Excel sheets, very simple. I've been able to, do pretty well so far, I would say.
Last question, have you
Mhm.
used the binder strategy on any of your tenants?
I have not, I haven't used it directly. I've added my own little spin to it, but I have it's interesting the way I did it was if when you get like an appraisal, how they show you the comps and different things in the area. I've done it similar to that mixed with the binder strategy. And I just, as kind of like you say, kind of goes to them and say, hey, this is renting for this in the area. What do you think would be fair to increase it to or different? And it's
Yeah.
worked
So
well.
using the appraisal from them, I've done that. I've done it with what the Section 8 will pay. I've done it with BAH will pay for the military. So whatever source you're using to then include the tenant in the conversation. And how did it go? Did your tenants come? So just the last couple of numbers, what were the rents and what did the tenants agree to?
So the biggest one tenant has increased it to is about $100 a month. They actually went up like 150, and I'm like, as you mentioned, I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to necessarily take advantage of him, and so I'm like, can we just, settle at 100? But usually I do small increments, and so usually, they go up, let's say $50 or so, 75, which is, fine with me. They're
Yeah.
usually pretty shocked because they're like, did he just ask me that, or what is he asking me? Like, is it a trick question?
Yeah.
Um, but it comes off a lot better, and I haven't had any bad experience from it. So
So we'll wrap this up with
good.
all of the haters in the comments that come at how much landlords.
Yeah.
You had tenants say, how about we raise the rent $150? And you said, that'd be great. But how about we only do 100?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I
I did.
stopped the stream there. We're off of YouTube.